Starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. This is Jessica from Hunger Solutions New York. We're going to just get started in another minute here, give a little time for folks to come on. Great. Hi, everyone. Again, this is Jessica Pino-Goodspeed from Hunger Solutions New York. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a lot of content, so we're going to kick right off. Thank you so much for joining us today. A little housekeeping before we start. This will be recorded, so anyone who was not able to sign on or can reference back to this will be distributed. Also, our questions, we're taking questions today by text box, so you'll see a chat in your webinar functions. There's a chat box there with a little note that says type your messages here. You can ask questions through that. We will have a section at the end to make sure we're getting those questions, but as you're thinking of them, feel free to type them in. We can fold them into our conversations or address them at the end, so please, we're happy to answer any questions you have. Everyone is on mute, so if you do need to communicate to us, please do that through that chat. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. We are here to talk a little bit about the Federal Nutrition Assistance Programs and how you may be able to connect schools and communities with those programs. As our logo implies, we hope to communicate to you today that we believe in the value of each of the parts working as a whole, that our nation and state's nutrition programs must work together to ensure children have access to the nutrition they need to learn, grow, work, and thrive. Just a little introduction here. I am Jessica Pino-Goodspeed. I'm here with my colleague, Krista Heisdorfer. We are both child nutrition program specialists. Our information is at the end, but I work on in-school meal programs, so meals that are served during the school time, and Krista works on out-of-school meal time. So we're here to talk about the respective programs that we work on. What we're hoping today that you walk away with is a better understanding of the crucial role that child nutrition programs serve, a little bit about how these programs safeguard children where they learn, where they work, where they play, and also at home. We also hope to connect you with how you can help connect these families, these children to the nutrition they need to thrive. So a general how these programs can connect in the work that you're doing already. So who are we for the folks who don't know us? Hunger Solutions New York is a statewide anti-hunger organization. We work to increase awareness of hunger in the communities that you live. We work to raise awareness on the programs that address hunger, specifically the federal nutrition programs. We provide information, resources, and technical assistance to community-based organizations, school administrators, teachers, parents, after-school program providers, and a broad group of folks that are committed to working with youth and also ending hunger. We manage outreach programs to provide direct client assistance. We advocate for policies to end hunger at the local, state, and federal levels, and our goal is full participation in the federal nutrition assistance program. So as our work that we talked about, we would be remiss to not just talk a little bit about hunger and how it's measured in the prevalence in New York State. So there are different measures of food insecurity. With that is food insecurity, food hardship, and also another analysis by Feeding America mapped the meal gap. So many folks may be aware of these different measures, but we wanted to have them out here. The food insecurity is what USDA measures, and that looks at a household level of food insecurity and at different classifications of food insecurity. So not getting too into the weeds, but looking at families who are food secure versus food insecure, families that have low food security and very low food security. So those are based on levels of access of food for these folks. FRAC, Food Research and Action Center, also provides a data set based on the Gallup Healthways Wellbeing Index. This is based on a survey that folks are asked of how many times in the 12 months did they not have enough money to buy the food that you or your family needed. This is based every 8 years they do this poll that is food hardship through FRAC, and Map the Meal Gap is an analysis of the food insecurity data and also indicators of food insecurity. So looking at poverty, unemployment, and home ownership. So what do all these measures tell us? Hunger rates in New York is pretty consistent across the board. You can see where they vary a little bit, with food insecurity being at 10.5% for the whole population, food hardship at 14.3%, and food insecurity through Feeding America, 11.4%. Overall, in all, that tells us that about 1 in 10 New Yorkers are struggling with food insecurity, about 1 in 7 with food hardship. So pretty consistent looking across different measures of food insecurity. The interesting piece here is when we start to look at households of all households versus households who have children. So our key takeaway here of what we're trying to show here is that households with children experience food insecurity at higher rates than households in general. So having a child in your house, in short, puts your family more at risk for food hardship, food insecurity, all these different measures. So particularly, I think this is really important for our conversation today, that families with children face food insecurity differently than other families and at higher rates. So the impact of food insecurity on children, there's a lot of research in this arena, and really concerning things that lend to a broader scope of what people say, child advocates, whether they're health experts, educational experts, really are concerned about these areas. The impact of food insecurity on children has a broad reach from their developmental years at the very beginning into their adulthood. So some broad areas where research has touched on is their ability, the impact of food insecurity and the development on social skills of children. Children who experience food insecurity as children have trouble with attentiveness, persistence, flexibility in school. Food insecurity is also linked with troubles with behavioral, emotional, and academic problems. So children who come from food insecure households have higher levels of hyperactivity, more impulsive, have higher levels of aggression and destructive behavior. They struggle more with self-control and interpersonal skills. Also, children from food insecure households have trouble engaging in the classroom for those reasons, but also they're found to be more apathetic, more withdrawn, less ability to be motivated. Children from food insecure households also have higher rates of tardiness. They're also absent more in school and more disengaged in the school environment. more recent studies around teenagers in food insecure households, there's been major links to increased risk of mental health issues. So they're more at risk for conduct disorders, higher levels of anxiety, depression, and all these social emotional problems that a lot of school administrators are finding as well and facing. So another piece of this is toxic stress. A lot of folks in the world of social sciences talk about toxic stress. So children who live in chronic poverty and food insecurity, that toxic stress can lead to brain delays. It can also produce anxiety, aggression, and emotional behavior disorders. So a lot of different things linked with that food insecurity. And so the programs that we focus on in order to alleviate hunger for children are the following. So the school breakfast program, the lunch program, also child and after school meal programs, summer food programs, the supplemental nutrition assistance program, SNAP, and also WIC. So the official names here are on the slide, but these are all the federal entitlement programs that our organization works on. We work on these programs as entitlement programs, meaning anyone who qualifies and applies for these benefits may receive benefits. Our hope is that WIC becomes an entitlement program. This is one of these things that we work towards in our policy agenda, but also WIC has been fully funded for many years. So that's also a reason we look to make sure that all people who qualify are participating in that program. So just diving into our first area, so school meals. So the key strategies here that we're talking about is improving access to the the school breakfast program with breakfast after the bell, and also offering universal breakfast and lunch. So schools, many of you may work with schools that offer school meal programs. Our goal is really, we want to make sure that in addition to what else they may be doing, so maybe that's a backpack program, maybe it's a school pantry program, but we want them to also, to complement that, be maximizing the use of their school meal programs. So ensuring that children who qualify for free and reduced meals, those who arguably are most at risk for food insecurity, are getting access to the school meals that they need. Just an overview of the basic of the school meal programs. And when I talk about school meals, I'm talking specifically about school breakfast and school lunch. So an overview of these programs, they're both federally funded. They're available for any student in a public, nonprofit, or private, private, or residential care institution. So many varies of schools. Schools offer meals at free and reduced price rates. Children pay for those meals based on their household income. All meals must meet nutrition requirements. So many of you may know this already, but so all meals that kids are served must have certain components in order for them to be reimbursed by the federal government and by the state. So that lends to our next thing. Schools receive a reimbursement for each breakfast and lunch served, and the amount that they received is based on how much that child pays. So there's a different reimbursement for paid children who are paying full price, reduced price, and free. So the key takeaway is that how schools do their school meal programs, how they offer breakfast, how they offer lunch, what they charge for each meal, what is on their menu differs from school to school. So there's a lot of local control in that sense. So it's really, we always encourage our partners to go out and learn and connect with their school to find out what is happening on the ground with their programs. So we focus on school breakfast. Lunch is more widely used, mainly because it's offered during the school day. There's a lot of lunch periods in order to make sure that kids are eating, so it's much more broadly accessed than the school breakfast program. The school breakfast program, New York State is one of the lowest performing states in reaching our low-income kids with school breakfast. So this is the latest report that we have out, the 17-18 school year. 1.8 million kids certified for free and reduced price breakfast. However, of those kids who ate, only 1 in 3 ate breakfast. when we compare it to lunch, because lunch tells us who could and should be eating free and reduced price breakfast, only 48% of those kids who ate lunch also ate breakfast. So that's just another indicator to tell us how we're doing in reaching low-income kids with breakfast. A little bit about, there's a lot of research around breakfast as well. The consumption of school breakfast has been tied to children's achievement, their well-being, and their behavior. We know that in general that nutrition is tied to those things, but a robust body of research shows that school breakfast has played a critical role in reducing hunger for children, bolstering student success, and also improving health. You can see this infographic here kind of walks you through that research a little bit and talks about how specifically it improves dietary intake, how it supports mental health, how students can be more engaged in the learning environment, and how it helps academic performance, especially in those morning math routines. A lot of those math and arithmetic classes are in the morning, so we really need our kids fueled and ready to learn. Our goal really is to increase access to and participation in the program, and how we do this is to promote and expand the use of key strategies that increase breakfast participation. So those two key strategies are implementing breakfast after the bell and also providing free breakfast to all students. And we're going to dig a little deeper into that. Breakfast after the bell is offering breakfast after the start of the instructional day. So timing and stigma are two big barriers for the traditional school breakfast program. Traditional breakfast is served before school starts in the cafeteria. Breakfast after the bell changes that by offering it after the start of the school day, sometimes in the classroom. Is this breakfast in the classroom and meals are delivered there? Sometimes it's a grab and go model where students are walking into the building, grabbing a bagged meal and going to their classroom or going to a gathering area. And also there's second chance breakfast. This is great for older kids who may come in later during the school day or have free periods so they can go in between first or second and third period to grab a lunch, to grab a breakfast. Just so folks are aware, breakfast after the bell is a requirement for high poverty schools. This is new within the last 2 school years. Public schools that have 70% or more of students who qualify for free and reduced price meals, so these are higher need schools and they have higher percentages of free and reduced kids, are required to offer all students a school breakfast after the start of the instructional day, also referred to as a breakfast after the bell. There is local control where schools can decide what model they use, like we were talking breakfast in the classroom or grab and go. But overall, schools that are identified by state ed that have 70% or more students are required. There's a list that comes out each year. Schools, again, have a choice to decide what models they use, and the first year there was startup funds. But there's also a lot of other funding, too, that comes through other private organizations, such as like the Dairy Council or No Kid Hungry in New York. Those are just some examples of other funding that's out there for schools. Another piece of this breakfast after the bell law that came into effect clarifies that any time students spend eating breakfast in the classroom can count as instructional time. So this was a barrier for schools before who were concerned that breakfast would conflict with their instructional day. So now breakfast in the classroom is considered instructional time when instruction is being provided. So many times schools are reviewing the math homework or doing a vocabulary word at the beginning of the breakfast in the classroom time, and now that can be counted as instructional time per the new education law. So moving on to universal meals, this is our second tactic to improve access to school breakfast. These are tactics to offer not only breakfast but also lunch. 1.4 million students in New York State attend a school with universal breakfast. So it's much more common than it ever has been before. We have nearly 3,000 schools offering CEP, and many other schools, about 40, offering Provision 2 for free breakfast only. So these are the different options. We're not going to go too deep into this, but these are the various options offering no charge to school, or no charge to meals. Community eligibility provision, which is based on students who are certified for free school meals without a school meal application. So many of that is like SNAP kids, so families who receive SNAP. Provision 2 is a little different. Usually schools can only offer breakfast or lunch. And then non-pricing is an option, just offering no meals, no cost for meals, and the school covers that cost. A little bit about CEP. This has been around since 2012-13, so New York State has pretty good uptake when it comes to community eligibility. I did talk about this a little bit, but it's a federal option that allows high poverty schools to offer free breakfast and lunch to all kids. The magic number to be eligible is 40%. So 40% of your kids who are eligible for free meals without an application. So again, we mentioned that could be SNAP kids, that could be homeless children, migrant children, kids who are in foster care. Those are all kids who are automatically eligible for free meals. So schools with greater than 40% of those students can choose to participate in CEP. Meals are reimbursed based on a cleaning percentage rather than per meal. So we do have a fact sheet if you're interested in a deeper dive with community eligibility or would like to share that with the school that you work with. We have that all linked here. Some interesting research that's come out around CEP. Schools that are eligible for community eligibility and not implementing are at a 2 times greater risk of food insecurity compared to schools who attend CEP. So a great proof that community eligibility is safeguarding children from food insecurity and reducing that risk for children. So really, a lot of times, especially maybe you're working with a school that already offers, say, CEP or free breakfast. I think it's really important to point this out of how this beautiful pair can work together. Really, when schools offer universal, there's these immediate impacts where more students are able to eat. There's not that barrier of participation where kids are having to pay for a meal. There's usually more kids eating. Many schools who have issues with unpaid meal balances, so kids who don't pay, say they're charging meals and they don't pay that all goes away for a community eligibility school or a school that's offering universal. Schools are more efficient because they're not so much in the game of collecting free and reduced price forms, but more just focusing on feeding kids, so their programs are more efficient. They're able to put higher quality programs out there, all of which is easier to implement breakfast after the bell. A lot of times we see schools that who have started CEP and have really started feeding more kids, and they think they're good to go, which, in some cases this may be it, but at the same time, you're creating optimal conditions to implement breakfast after the bell. So what that means is, say your cafeteria is crowded because you're feeding so many kids in the morning breakfast, moving it to breakfast after the bell, whether that be a grab-and-go cart or kids eating in their classrooms, that can help you feed more kids and simplify the whole process. So we talked about this a little bit. I think I jumped ahead of myself here, but why move to these alternative breakfast programs? So making sure that you're feeding as many kids as possible and not letting things like restrictions of cafeteria capacity restrict how many kids are eating. So we want to make sure that that access is there. So just making it free sometimes doesn't always mean it's accessible. And what that means is that if you're offering it before the school day and maybe kids' buses get there late, that doesn't mean that that meal is necessarily accessible. So making sure breakfast after the bell can get over that kind of hurdle. And so just to wrap up here, we were talking about with the school meal programs, raising awareness about the availability of school breakfast is one piece, making sure that families know, but also that schools are looking at their breakfast program as a resource to reduce hunger in their schools. Also, encouraging schools to take steps to improve student access, like we've been talking about. All those steps of taking away the charge and taking away the need for kids to arrive early for school meals, that all helps remove the stigma and the idea that these programs are just for low-income kids. Yes, we want low-income kids eating these programs, but all kids can benefit from these programs. So when all kids are eating, that really helps remove stigma. Connecting eligible families with other child nutrition programs, because school doesn't run all the time and because there's breaks and there's after school and there's summer breaks particularly, it's really important that we also get these families and get these schools talking about out-of-school nutrition programs and making sure we're having wraparound services for children to make sure that they're safeguarded from hunger. So that's a perfect transition to hand it over to my colleague, Krista, who will talk to you a little bit more about out-of-school time nutrition.
Thanks, Jessica. As Jessica mentioned, my name is Krista Hestorfer, and my focused areas are the out-of-school nutrition programs, specifically the Child and Adult Care Food Program and the Summer Food Service Program. These programs offer opportunities for schools to nourish students beyond the school day, and by maximizing participation in all of the programs available to them, schools can strengthen their overall child nutrition programs to be more financially viable and impactful. And as Jessica noted during my time, I'll also share some information about how schools can connect families with programs that help them buy food at home, including SNAP and WIC, and about local level outreach workers who can be great partners in this work. We'll start with an overview of the Child and Adult Care Food Program, or CACFP. CACFP is funded and administered at the federal level by USDA and at the state level by the New York State Department of Health. It provides per meal or per snack reimbursements for healthy food served in a variety of care settings, from child care centers to home-based child care, and most relevant for today's conversation, after-school programs. CACFP participation is associated with a range of positive outcomes, including increased consumption of fruits and vegetables and decreased prevalence of obesity. And for students in after-school programs, CACFP provides a nutritional boost to fuel continued learning, ensuring they're ready to fully focus and engage in enrichment activities. Providing after-school nutrition, especially in the form of a complete after-school meal, provides another valuable opportunity to support youth and families. In a 2013 survey from Share Our Strength, 59% of low-income parents surveyed reported that tight household budgets can make it challenging to provide food for their children after school. CACFP can help schools fill that need while also strengthening their overall child nutrition programs. Most schools that participate in CACFP do so through a specific component called the At-Risk After-School Snack and Supper component, more commonly referred to as simply after-school meals. The after-school meals component reimburses for healthy meals or snacks served in after-school programs, of course, but also in programs operating on weekends or during school breaks throughout the regular school year. For example, if a school has a Saturday enrichment program or a program that operates over spring break, they may qualify to serve meals through CACFP. To qualify, programs must offer at least one enrichment activity. This could be a structured program or something like homework help or arts and crafts. Programs must also be located within the enrollment area of a school where 50% or more of the students qualify for free or reduced price school meals. And this could be any school that serves that location. For example, if an after-school program is located in a high school that doesn't meet the 50% threshold, but the elementary school that serves the same location does meet the threshold, then that location would be considered area eligible. And because eligibility is based on the location of the program, individual students don't need to qualify by income or submit any income-related information. The program is reimbursed at the highest available rate for all reimbursable meals and snacks they serve. For this school year, the reimbursement rates are $3.41 per meal and 94 cents per snack. In some cases, if a program is interested in providing after-school meals, but they're not located in an eligible area, they may qualify to participate in traditional CACFP rather than the at-risk after-school snack supper component. There are several differences in eligibility and reimbursement, so we're happy to talk through traditional CACFP on a case-by-case basis with anybody who might be interested. Jessica shared about gaps in access to school breakfast, and unfortunately, there are significant gaps in access to the out-of-school time nutrition programs as well, including after-school nutrition. In New York State, for every 100 children who eat free or reduced price school lunch, fewer than 7 have access to a complete after-school meal. The majority of schools and after-school programs in our state serve snacks instead, either through CACFP or through the National School Lunch Program's after-school snack component. We do hope to see more schools offering complete meals, which include 5 food components instead of just 2 for snacks. But even if we include after-school snacks, as a state, we reach fewer than 1 in 5 low-income kids with any type of after-school nutrition. Schools can increase access to after-school meals in several ways. First and foremost, eligible schools can apply to sponsor the program and serve after-school meals. For many schools, this means switching from serving snacks through the National School Lunch Program to serving complete meals through CACFP. We can help schools understand what's involved in that process and share strategies that have worked well in other districts. Switching from snacks to meals can be a win-win. It provides more food for kids, of course, and the reimbursement rates are significantly higher. To fully maximize CACFP, schools may be able to serve both a meal and a snack if a program operates long enough to allow 2.5 hours in between meal or snack service. Schools can also help spread the word about CACFP to after-school program providers who may be operating programs in their buildings or beyond, like YMCAs, Boys and Girls Clubs, or 4-H programs. In some cases, if those programs are interested in sponsoring after-school meals, the school could serve as their food vendor, providing prepared meals for the programs. Our website, afterschoolmealsny.org, has a variety of helpful resources, including our comprehensive after-school meals guide, which includes tools to help determine eligibility, some sample menus, and much more. Please feel free to share this guide with schools or others that you're working with. When school's out for the summer, kids lose access to supports like after-school meals and school breakfast and lunch. That's where the Summer Food Service Program, or Summer Meals, comes in. The Summer Food Service Program provides reimbursement funding for healthy meals and snacks served free to children and teenagers age 18 and under. Summer meals help fill the nutritional gap in the summertime, reducing food insecurity, and they support summer enrichment programs, which mitigate summer learning loss, which disproportionately affects low-income youth. The Summer Food Service Program is administered again at the federal level by USDA, but at the state level, it's administered by the New York State Education Department. At the local level, school districts and community-based organizations can apply to be summer meals sponsors. Sponsors handle program administration, meal planning and preparation or vendor contracts, and training and management of sites. Sites are the locations where meals are served, typically places where kids naturally gather and spend time in the summer, including parks, libraries, public pools, and many schools. Most summer meals are served at what's called open sites, where any child or teenager can drop by for a meal without any paperwork or enrollment process. Open sites are qualified based on the location, similar to after-school meals. Again, the threshold is 50% or more of that community's children qualifying for free or reduced price meals. But for the Summer Food Service Program, that eligibility can be shown using either local school meals data or through census data showing the percentage of children in households with incomes under 185% of the poverty level. There are some tools available to help determine eligibility for open sites, which I'll share later on. To give some sense of the current reach of summer meals, this most recent summer, more than 380 sponsors served meals at nearly 3,000 sites across the state. We're really grateful for the work of so many schools, food banks, and community-based organizations that are ensuring youth have access to the nutrition they need over the summer. Still, there are significant gaps in access and participation. Last year, we took a deep dive into participation data to create a statewide status report. Our findings show that while statewide we're reaching about 27% of our low-income kids with summer meals, when you parse out New York City, where 36% of low-income youth eat summer meals, across the rest of the state, we're reaching about 17%, or fewer than 1 in 5. We also found clear gaps in access in the last several weeks of summer. Even though over 2,900 sites in 61 counties operated at some point during the summer of 2017, fewer than 900 open sites in 39 counties were approved to operate in the latter half of August, leaving many kids without access to summer nutrition nearly 3 weeks before school started. And throughout the summer, we also see limited meal service on weekends. And as you all are well aware, hunger doesn't take a break on the weekend. There are a few key ways we can increase access to summer meals. First and foremost, in many parts of the state, there are not enough sites available, or in some cases, none at all. In these eligible but unserved or underserved areas, expanding availability of sites is key, both in terms of the number of sites and in days of service, especially to fill the gaps on weekends and in August. In areas where sites operate, families need to know about them, and so do community service providers, including school social workers, school nurses, and others who might provide referrals to families. And we can also help increase participation by making sure sites are appealing to kids and families. One of the most promising ways to do that is by pairing meals with activities. Making a meal just part of a broader enrichment program decreases stigma and keeps kids coming back. Some of the schools that you work with may already sponsor summer meals, in which case they might consider adding more sites throughout the community. The list on the right side provides a few examples of promising site locations. These types of community groups can also make great partners for adding activities to existing sites. And as I mentioned, we also encourage schools to expand their days of service to cover weekends and their weeks of service to include the last few weeks before school starts. For schools that are not yet involved in the program, they may be able to get started either as a sponsor in an underserved area or as sites. I've included contact information for the summer meals team at the New York State Education Department. Schools that are interested can reach out to learn more and get started with the application process. Determining eligibility is typically the first step for a school interested in getting involved with summer meals. USDA offers a mapper that can help schools determine if they're in a location that's eligible to host open sites. In this example, I entered the address of Horseheads High School. The areas shaded pink are area eligible based on census data, and so this location would be considered eligible for open sites. Schools can also use this map to see where sites operated last year and to identify potential site locations like libraries, YMCAs, museums, and more. As I mentioned, census data is just one way of determining eligibility. So if a school or a potential site location is shaded blue on the map, we can take a look at the local school meals data to see if they might qualify that way. And note that open sites are just one way of participating in summer meals. If a school operates an enrichment program with an enrolled group of students, they may be able to participate in a different way, like as a closed enrolled site. So we're happy to talk with schools if they're interested in learning more about that option. You can find that mapper on our website, summermealsny.org, along with a variety of other resources. During the summer, this webpage has a list of site locations and a USDA Site Finder map to help families locate sites near them. And all year, we have a variety of free outreach materials anyone can use to help spread the word. We also have a webinar recording featuring current sponsors, including a school district, sharing their experiences and strategies. The outreach materials I mentioned include these flyers and rack cards available in English and Spanish that schools and community-based organizations can order in bulk at no charge from the New York State Education Department. We also have graphics they can use on their websites, in e-newsletters, and on social media. We also have a sponsor directory to help potential new sites connect with the sponsors operating in their area. And if schools are interested in talking with peers who have experience with the program, this can be a great resource for facilitating that type of connection as well. And as I mentioned earlier, we wanted to touch on some programs available to help families buy groceries at home. You may already be familiar with both SNAP and WIC generally, so I'll just provide a brief overview to be sure we all have a level set of information, and then I'll share some specific local resources we want to be sure you're aware of. As you may know, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, provides monthly grocery benefits to households or individuals who meet certain eligibility guidelines. SNAP is federally funded, state administered, and operated locally by departments of social services. Once approved to receive SNAP benefits, participants receive those benefits through an electronic benefit transfer, or EBT card, that allows them to buy groceries at stores, farmers markets, and other participating retailers. SNAP is our nation's largest anti-hunger program, serving 2.9 million New Yorkers, and it is truly part of the suite of child nutrition programs. In New York State alone, over 1 million children benefit from SNAP, and overall, about 1/3 of all New Yorkers who receive SNAP benefits are children. A growing body of research shows that SNAP can safeguard against food insecurity and improve health, academic, and employment outcomes for growing children. To provide some sense of the scale of SNAP, Feeding America states that for every 1 meal provided by their food bank and pantry network, SNAP provides 12 meals. Still, there are many individuals and families who could provide or qualify for SNAP, but are not yet participating for a variety of reasons, including application barriers, stigma, or even just a lack of awareness that they may be eligible. Our local Nutrition Outreach and Education Program, or NOEP coordinators, help address barriers to SNAP participation to connect more eligible New Yorkers with SNAP. NOEP coordinators operate out of community-based organizations, and NOEP is available in almost every county and all boroughs in New York State, all of the areas shaded green on this map. If you visit foodhelpny.org, you can find contact information for your local NOEP coordinator. NOEP coordinators provide a range of free and confidential services to help eligible people connect with SNAP. They conduct SNAP outreach. They provide pre-screenings to help people determine if they may be eligible for SNAP benefits, and if so, about how much they might qualify to receive. They can help people through the application process, including filling out the actual application and helping to gather and submit documents. They work with the local social services offices to ensure applications are processed correctly and in a timely manner, and if barriers arise, help resolve those barriers. They also provide referrals for other resources, including other nutrition assistance programs like WIC, school meals, and summer meals. We encourage schools to connect with their local NOEP coordinator. NOEP coordinators may be able to provide outreach materials for families. They may be able to set up a table at a school open house or community event, and they're a great referral resource. We've recently started a similar project to help families connect with WIC, or the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children. WIC supports children under the age of 5, moms, and moms-to-be by providing healthy food, nutrition advice, breastfeeding support, and referrals to other services. While the WIC program is available nationally, including all counties of New York, what you see highlighted on this map are counties with a WIC help specialist available to help families connect with WIC. WIC help specialists can help determine if a family is eligible for WIC. They can offer translation services, home visits, and in-person, email, or over-the-phone assistance. They can refer a person to the WIC clinic of their choice and help set up and prepare for their first WIC appointment. Similar to NOEP coordinators, WIC help specialists are a great resource for schools. They can provide outreach materials and again may be able to table with information at open houses or other events, and are another great referral resource for families. And across the state, whether in counties with a WIC help specialist or not, schools can help spread the word about WIC. We have a variety of flyers available for use. This is just a small sampling, including a flyer highlighting eWIC because WIC benefits are no longer distributed on paper checks, and a flyer that lets people know that dads and other non-maternal caregivers can apply for WIC on behalf of a child under 5. Please contact us if you or a school is interested in these or other WIC outreach materials. To recap our action steps, we hope you'll share information and resources to encourage schools to maximize access to and participation in the whole suite of federal nutrition assistance programs. They can do this by offering universal school breakfast and lunch where possible, using innovative breakfast after the bell service models to increase access to the school breakfast program, by serving summer meals and after-school meals and helping to spread the word about those programs, and by connecting families with SNAP and WIC in partnership with their local NOAP coordinators and WIC help specialists. We can be a resource for you and for the schools you work with as you move forward. We're able to provide data and resources, technical assistance and outreach materials. We also advocate for policy change at the federal, state, and local levels. If you're interested and able to get involved in advocacy, our advocacy alert, which I've linked here, can be a great resource for staying informed about proposed rules, comment opportunities, and policy changes. We invite you to visit these dedicated websites for each program to learn more and access many more resources than we could possibly speak to in our short time today. And we do have about 15 minutes available if anybody has any questions. Please feel free to send questions through the chat box. So I have a question about the census mapper for summer meals, the information that's available on there, how long it's valid for. And so the current color coding on there, the pink and the blue, that's the information that's going to be valid for this coming summer. And I believe that all of the data layers in that mapper are updated each year. So they would reflect any changes in census data. Additionally, there is a list of schools that meet that 50% threshold for summer meals, and that's updated each year as well. And the current version is available as of November for qualifying sites for the coming summer. And second question here, how will the proposed rule on categorical eligibility impact New York State? I want to direct you all to a fabulous resource. Our colleague Dawn Secor is our SNAP specialist, and she is keeping track and keeping updated on all of the ways that the various proposed and final rules that are coming from USDA might impact New Yorkers. And so if you visit our website, hungersolutionsny.org, and then navigate to our SNAP policy page, you can find information about each of the rules that have come along, including, I believe, some figures on how the different rules would affect New York State specifically, and then at the national level. And then Jessica, I think this is a question for you. And that is, do school meals work any differently with BOCES schools since they're funded by multiple districts?
Great question. So each BOCES works it separately and independently. So what that means is that one BOCES may be their own school food authority, so they deal with all the administration of food. They claim meals to the state, they provide food to the kids, and do it all within house of that. Other BOCES, for example, I know Broome Tioga BOCES, for example, they offer services to schools. So each school is their own school food authority. So, for example, Binghamton City Schools, they are their own school food authority, and the Broome Tioga BOCES offers meals and vends meals to them, similar to like how a different food company would work, if that makes sense. I know it's not a crystal clear answer about the BOCES, but each BOCES works kind of differently, and it's really helpful to kind of connect with that BOCES. But with that said, BOCES are capable of being a school food authority and offering meals themselves, or they're also able to offer meals while an independent school district offers meals to the kids of where they come from. I hope that made sense. not necessarily a black and white answer.
Thank you, Jessica. And so while Jessica was answering that question, I was able to get a little bit smarter about the categorical eligibility question. So based on what Dawn has populated for that SNAP policy page, it looks like nationally the categorical eligibility rule would likely result in about 982,000 children who would no longer be direct certified for school meals based on SNAP participation. And then in New York State, about 132,500 New Yorkers and families with children could lose their SNAP benefits, and 39,000 children could lose their automatic eligibility for free school meals. So of course, we're very concerned about this, and this is high on our list of advocacy priorities. All right, just taking a look to see if any more questions are popping up here. And I think that is it. So we'll go ahead and wrap up. If you have any additional questions, or if anything comes up in the course of your work, please feel free to reach out using the contact information on this slide. We'll be sharing this slide deck and the recording with all of you for your reference and to share with others. Thank you all so much for your time and for your work to ensure that kids are well nourished. And again, please don't hesitate to reach out if we can assist your efforts in any way.